Well, hello, that's me again. Today is September 11th, 2024, and I'm not gonna go into elaboration again on the September 11th tragedy which struck New York and Washington in 2001. So much written, so much spoken about it, and so many conspiracy theories are spinning around all that. So I'm not gonna go there. I mean, the only thing which I cared then, as I care now, that almost 3,000 innocent people have been killed. But other than that, I mean, it was the most spectacular in terms of the visuals terrorist act in history, probably. But then again, what we're having today is, of course, there's nothing more than the terrorist war against Russia by the combined West. So in this case, I mean, it's difficult to really expect those people, most of whom are sociopaths, kind of reflect on what is happening. They don't. And I want to start with this wonderful piece by I always tempted, to call Mr. Alistair Crook not Mr. but Sir, because he definitely comes across as what used to be the perception of the British aristocracy and people with the both stiff upper lip but also incredible intellect and being a true gentleman. But he's talking about in his wonderful conversation with Judge Napolitano a couple days ago, actually, that the free speech is basically the same as the so-called democracy, is nothing more than actually the illusion. And I don't want to go there and quote immortal Frank Zappa about this and his brick wall quote, but it is generally true. And the structures which are they are there, which basically provide an alternative reality. They actually don't care anymore, for example, like these two guys. So we have this Mr. Richard Moore and William Burns, speak at the no less than Financial Times event on Saturday, and guess what? Here we have these two dudes who never experienced any difficulty in their lives. They are products of the degree meals from the United States and Great Britain, especially United Kingdom. I mean, it's just absolute disaster what they have there in terms of the all kinds of elite preparation schools. And so they say that CIA MI6 chiefs praise Ukraine's Kursk invasion for bringing war to ordinary Russians. Well, so as you can see yourself, Moore, he is British, so that means he is basically already, especially considering his service which he has, he already involved in the terrorist activity and false flags, so all kinds of the sewer of the human activity, which in United Kingdom passes for intelligence and, the basically BS with, obviously, James Bond, which was selling the allegedly great, British capability, which is complete propaganda. It's a Chihuahua country with Chihuahua intelligence services and let alone military. But he still says that Kursk invasion was typically audacious and bold on the part of Ukrainians to try and change the game, and said it had brought the war home to ordinary Russians. I mean, you cannot teach the product which is on the government service in UK any idea about modern war. So the guy is nothing but a propagandist. And Mr. Burns, who for some reason he was praised for while being during his tenure as the US ambassador in Moscow, that he sent, oh my god, this cable, which is like Russians will not tolerate, it's a red line if Ukraine is being pulled into the Western fold, which was nothing more than actually basically summary of the Russian media. And this problem has been was being discussed in Russian media since God knows when, from 1990s. I don't know. So that's the basically level of Mr. Burns' understanding of Russian politics. So these two clowns go out and they talk about that. Yeah, they are really excited about that. As already well established, especially so-called NATO volunteers, which have been already established the fact they are especially cruel, especially Americans, British, and Poles. They rape, they kill civilians, so they torture Russian POWs. This is what is a classic example and classic markers of the impotent rage, because I believe starting from the last week, and you can listen, you all have the access to the internet, obviously you're watching me, is the fact that Mr. Abtialodinov, the Major General and Deputy Commander of the Russian Political Directorate of the Russian Armed Forces and the Commander of the Brigade, I don't know, it's not more brigade, it comes across now as a division of Ahmad forces, he reported that those guys were begging to be, substituted and removed from Kursk Oblast. But the problem is, of course, for the situation in the Kursk Oblast is that it's very difficult to do because it is all closed and they are dying now there. Yeah, however, many of them run and try to escape, but as Alaudinov says that most of the whatever left, those crazy groups, you can look up on the internet, they taken prisoners, 6, 8 here, 20 there, and all that. These are dispersed groups which are hiding in primarily forest, and couple of battalions which committed suicide trying to attack Russians, and Russia is beginning to mop up the Kursk Oblast in earnest. So you can all look it up, I don't need to go about it in depth, but here we have as always, the situation with the losses in the last 24 hours. As you can see yourself, we have a really, I know it sounds horrible, but this is a harvest, so to speak. As always, above 2,500 killed, and again, I said killed. For those who do not understand what I'm talking about, keep in mind, you can easily multiply it by 2. So, and the number presented here is probably going to be the number which is close or even more than the actual number of KIAs on the Ukrainian side. And look at this intensively at the UAVs, 175. So Maria Zakharova already came out today because obviously one of the UAVs went through and hit the apartment block, and she says that it was actually London behind it, but then again, London is incapable of fighting war, it can do only terrorist acts. So, and yeah, we know that, but there is another issue. They tried again to attack the Alenia, which is the one of the air bases, which is used on rotation by Russian strategic aviation. And this time, obviously those UAVs have been shot down, but this time it is clear they were flying from the direction of Norway, and there are only 2 possibilities of this for those Polish-made A-22s, a kind of Cessna knockoffs, trying to reach the Russian, fleet, navy bases in Kola Peninsula, and that's Norway. Now suddenly Russians say, yeah, they were flying from Norway. There is very little doubt that some nut jobs in the Baltic states or statelets might also approve this. But this is becoming very serious in terms of all those Scandinavian, emirates, and to thinking about that they probably have to kind of tighten their security, maybe. And as I already stated, NATO is good only of hiding behind backs of their cannon fodder. And anybody who tells you that NATO is going to strike Russia, yeah, they will try to, again, as I already stated, provide some JASSMs to Ukraine, and in hopes that, it will elicit again some kind of response of what Russia is doing absolutely methodically and annihilating, as you saw yourself. So just to give you an example, that, for example, U.S. Army cannot fight this kind of war, which, by the way, by different estimates, will have almost, well, not twice, but 3,600 basically losses of the personnel a day. So, no, U.S. Army is not designed for that, and so they hide behind those people who commit those atrocities against civilians in Kursk. And you know what, Ukrainian forces gladly post now that how they torture some of those Russian POWs, electrocuting them, all kinds of things. So yeah, that's the typical NATO, that's their level of morality, and that is to say it's negative. And what can I say? I mean, you cannot expect anything else from that. So, and just to show you that basically the issue of the Russian forces continuing to move to the west is very simple. Here's from our friend Marat. As you can see yourself, the Nevelsky cauldron is practically closed now, so yeah, whatever is left there is not gonna escape, because they are in a almost full tactical surrounding, and who knows what is happening there. As you can see yourself, because of the attack on Selidova, what used to be there some kind of the grouping which was along the a river there, it's kind of started to dissipate, and you see yourself, Russia turned north and annihilates whatever is left from the northern part of the grouping of the armed forces of Ukraine, and then on to Pokrovsk completely, and that's just part of the, so to speak, situation on the front, and yeah, they don't like good news, and as Mr. Alistair Crowe correctly stated, it's a structure. The structure of the basically propaganda, because it can do only one thing. It can try to manipulate with the public opinion. Many people will fall under this spell, but other than that, that's the only thing they can do. They cannot fight war, they cannot run economy, they can do nothing, because the only thing they were taught is PR. And that is why, for example, I'm not going to be discussing this circus, actually, of the so-called debates. It's the lowest of the entertainment, and I do not watch circuses. So anybody who wants to discuss, those things which were happening on the ABC yesterday, it's there. They can go and discuss whatever they want. I'm not interested in all this garbage which was happening there, because it's a humiliation. It's embarrassment. All around the world. But hey, whatever. So, and now we go to something that which is, what can I say? Good God. You saw yourself in the beginning, the whole of Russian Navy it already started deployment and working out the major strategic exercise called Ocean or Okean 24. Obviously, there were, if you go and look up the famous Okean 1970, which shook the perception, actually, dispelled all those mythology about Soviet Navy as primarily the Green Water Navy in 1970 by under the auspices of Mr. Gorshkov. But here it is. So Reuters responds: Putin casts naval exercise with China as bid to counter US in the Pacific. Well, it's not only about the Pacific. So what we have here is that Moscow, as you can see yourself, they report President Vladimir Putin on Tuesday warned the United States against trying to outgun Moscow in Asia, as Russian and Chinese warships held joint drills as part of the biggest Russian naval exercise since Soviet era. So they do report on that, but so Chinese participate there. They have like 15 combat aircraft, among them the strategic bombers, and as U.S. Navy and Korean Navy identified those 4 ships, we can see yourself that one of them is those mighty Type 55 destroyers. These are probably, in terms of salvo, they really make Ticonderoga class cruisers look pretty pale, but especially considering the fact what they carry, including the F-21, which is hypersonic quasi-ballistic missile. So you have also another destroyer, you have the supply ship, and you have the command and control ship, which is above there. As you can see, so they have these 4 ships participating actively, and what is happening now in terms of this so-called Okean or Ocean 2024, let us kind of go back a little bit in history. You see this. This is a Summer X-85 of the Soviet Navy, which was, well, as you can see, you surmised already, was done in 85. And, of course, this is just merely surface fleet. Obviously, nobody tells you what was there in terms of the submarine forces. Russia, even today, is there sharing the, so to speak, splitting the first place in the world in terms of submarines with the United States. But as you can see yourself, the whole idea is obvious from even this map. It was about controlling the shipping lanes of communications for the U.S. Navy and its strategic lift forces to provide the stream of the supplies and troops in case of the war in Europe to the European NATO. So it's pretty much the legend of this summer exercises of 1985 speaks about itself. Today it is very much similar, but of course everything changed dramatically in terms of the ranges and capabilities of the weapons Russia brings on the table. And many people, when they say, oh yeah, there are no aircraft carriers. No, there are not. But the point is that you have to understand that when you have a 3M22 Zircon, you don't need the aircraft carriers really to project power, because Russian Navy is not projecting power. It is a sea denial force. For those people who don't understand what sea denial force, okay, let me put it in the most simplest terms. Russian Navy is about sinking NATO navies. And you don't need to actually have aircraft carriers to do so, because anything in the pretty much arsenal of Russian Navy today outranges anything that US aircraft carriers have. And of course Russians have this very interesting thing, which for example US Navy doesn't have. They have the coastal missile artillery forces with all those very nasty looking bastions, you know, which are capable of launching 1,500 kilometer range super hypersonic Zircons, and of course 800 plus kilometer range Onyx and things of this nature. So when you look attentively at this, yeah, it's pretty much anything which is rolled out, which it was actually yesterday, in terms of bastion batteries in Kaliningrad Oblast, covers pretty much the whole of Europe and all of the Baltic Sea. So that means any surface force which appears in the Baltic Sea will be sunk really fast, and nothing they can do about it. And this is just the part of it. But what you see in the beginning of the video is actually what is called, it's photo op. Every Navy or every exercise does it. They put their ships into this, you know, square, so to speak, in the order, which is of the what is called front. And they make photos and they maneuver together, and then they just separate and go away their own ways. And of course you have to understand that what you see in the beginning, it's a Pacific fleet. It's part of the surface fleet there, and including the command and control ship Marshal Krylov and all kinds of those interesting ships which are also Zircon carriers. And so when this thing goes out to sea, yeah, that becomes a very interesting situation. Apart from the fact that obviously, as I already stated, you have the also 11th Air Army. If for those people who still think that you can move the couple of carrier battle groups and they will try to assault what is essentially unsinkable aircraft carrier of Russian Federation. And in terms of the 11th Army, Air Army, and all own Pacific fleet in this particular case, but Russian Navy has all the indigenous organic air forces there. So if any air wing of any kind of aircraft carrier wants to face, let's say, 30 Su-35s, well, good luck to them, you know, so they're not going to survive that encounter. So, and that's the whole thing, which many people do not understand. And then, of course, I use Wikipedia here, but it's actually, I use it because generally it is correct. If you take a look now at the Pacific Fleet, which in 2018, which was essentially, 6 years ago, U.S. Naval Institute Press was writing about it as the forgotten fleet. Well, it's not forgotten anymore. Look at this basically setup in terms of the nuclear submarines alone. So, and what it brings out is we're not going to be counting the all those 5 brand new SSBNs, strategic missile submarines, or boomers, with the latest one, Emperor Alexander III. So it's not in Northern Fleet already. It's already arrived to the extent of my knowledge already into the Pacific Fleet in Petropavlovsk-Kamchatsky. But if you look attentively, you can see yourself there are some really serious and nasty looking subs, which of course, as I already stated, such as Irkutsk. Irkutsk already were running the complete naval tests, because it's almost complete, was completed actually about half a year ago. I don't know what its status now. It's actually could be already in the theater, and it's not 72 3M54 caliber, which is of course baloney. That's why I highlighted it. It actually carries up to 48 heavy anti-shipping missiles, such as 3M22 Zircon, obviously, and Onyx, and it has capability to carry all kinds of the caliber missiles. But they say 48 right now, actually, but who knows? We will never know the actual number. So as you can see yourself, there are all kinds of other, submarines operating there. And as I already stated, if you look attentively at the Krasnoyarsk, for example, or Novosibirsk, these are Yasin class or Granay class submarines, which are state-of-the-art and probably the most silent submarines in the world today. And that's just the Pacific Fleet. So Russians really moving this out, and Mr. Putin is very specifically stated that this is all about the fact that NATO is, carrying out plans of trying to harm Russia. So that is the demonstration to the NATO, but primarily to the United States, that in Asia Pacific, Russians will back up Chinese, who have a very large surface fleet. But as I already stated, there are, if you look attentively at the 11th Air Army, which is based on the far east of Russia, there are many Kinzhal carriers there. And Kinzhal carrier, you know that, this is never going to end well for any kind of force which tries to deploy anywhere, especially because Kinzhal, with its own range of 2,000 kilometers plus, and of course the carrier, depending on the carrier, there are now reports that Tu-22M3 flying them, Su-34s are capable of carrying Kinzhal, so add another 700 kilometers, so you have around 2,700 kilometers, which is, well, beginning to kind of move closer to the center of the Pacific. And yeah, you don't want to admit that. And I mean, people in the US Navy, they know that. So they are not completely suicidal. Which brings us to the other thing. So we have delusion continues, as I already stated. These are not normal people in the West, because it's really ridiculous. So we have now this Kiel Institute. Kiel Institute of the World Economy. Okay, and Kiel Institute of the World Economy, this is from Germany, comes up, today with this, Germany is rearming too slow to stand up to Russia. And so they conclude with this report. I mean, there are so many reports now which came out just a few days in this time span of few days, that I have to really bring you up on that. So after decades of military downsizing, German military spending is woefully inadequate to meet the new strategic challenge posed by Russia, as both a new report by the Kiel Institute for the World Economy and the new Kiel Military Procurement Tracker show. And you cannot explain to those imbeciles from all those institutes, which of course are, as I already stated, they are pretty much most economic programs in the West, and in Russia, by the way, too. Those monetarism and all that kind of theories, they're garbage. I mean, they never really worked out. They never panned out. And basically, the study of and teaching of economy, you can read Michael Hassan's outstanding books, together with also Dr. Fadil Lama's outstanding books about what actually modern Western economics and economism, that means the body of knowledge, so to speak, about economy is. It's pathetic. So the fact is that Germany can try to direct its whole economy towards it, and it's still not going to be, standing up to Russia, because it doesn't just behind Russia economically. Russian economy dwarfs that of the German economy, but because also the fact that Germany, German military, be that Bundeswehr or whatever whatever they call nowadays Marine and all that thing, Luftwaffe, they are behind Russia not in years. They are by about two generations of the weapons and table of organization equipment behind Russia. So why Germany still thinks that it's so great militarily, I don't know. They have been telling, just basically fairy tales about themselves for a long time. But I can tell you one thing. If Germany will try to come up with something and produce on the serially produce something like Su-57, it will have its economy bottom falling off. But how can you explain to those people, the Europeans? So while you have this dude, Mr. Draghi, so Mr. Draghi, the Central European Bank, Italian, banker and thing, Draghi best ideas are those Europe finds least comfortable. The danger is it picks the easy one. So Draghi produced this 400 pages. It's oh God, I mean, the report why Europe, that's how the Economist reports about it. Adam Smith thought that achieving spectacular economic growth required little more than peace, easy taxes, and a tolerable administration of justice. Well, I can tell you immediately something about Mr. Draghi. He is a banker. Take a look at his CV. And so, as you can see yourself, the guy never held a real job in his life. He is a whiteboard theoretician, and he studied at whatever, Massimiliano Massima Institute, a Jesuit school in Rome. So, in 1970s, he graduated with honors in economics. That means he doesn't have actual applicable education at Sapienza University of Rome. So, and he started to write all kinds of those, abstract economic papers, none of which actually ever had any kind of the normal impact or any workable ideas in them. And he's talking about exchange rates and things of this nature. And that's he graduated at Massachusetts Institute of Technology, where he was obviously brainwashed into the globalist ideas, which he had already to start with. And so he has the title, Essays on Economic Theory and Applications. Okay, whatever. So there you go. The guy works all his life in banks, and now he's talking about, well, as I already stated, he never studied physics, and he probably studied some mathematics like statistics and probably theory of probability to some degree. That's about it. He knows debit credit, but he produced yet another drudgery. And here is his, oh my God, the future of European competitiveness. I can tell you that it's a little bit too late to speak about it, because obviously for obvious reason that real economies run on their, energy. And the only thing which is really competitive what Europeans have left is primarily Airbus. This is it. In terms of weapons, we can sit here and discuss what they have. It's pathetic, and we will touch on that. So we have this guy. The 3 areas for action to reignite growth. Well, again, they don't understand what growth is. So the second area for action is a joint plan for decarbonization and competitiveness. If Europe's ambition climate targets are matched by a coherent plan to achieve them, decarbonization will be an opportunity for Europe. But we fail to coordinate our policies. There is a risk that decarbonization could run contrary to competitiveness and growth. Really? How many years he was sleeping under what stone? So, but again, he's a banker. He doesn't have physics education. And so... So, yeah, how about decarbonizing Europe? That means what? Killing it completely and turning it into the third world crap hole. And Europe is already on its way. So, and then of course we have this guy, and again, it's written by the nincompoops, all graduates of those so-called degree mills, which allegedly prepare those elites. And what is standing in the way? And he's talking about defense industry. Really, for instance, we're still not joining forces in the defense industry to help our companies to integrate and reach scale. European collaborative procurement accounted for less than a fifth of spending on defense equipment procurement in 2022. We also do not favor competitive European defense companies. Between mid-22 and mid-23, 78 of total procurement spending went to non-EU suppliers, out of which 63% went to the US. Here's your problem, Mr. Draghi, because United States will tell you jump and you will ask how high. And all his so-called wisdoms and pretends that he understands anything about defense industries are pathetic. Again, the guy has zero engineering or any kind of the STEM background to understand what kind of the revolution in military affairs happened, and Europe is left behind in the dust. And the same happened to United States, but United States have a lot of junk which it will shove down the throat of those Europeans, and they will thank United States even when they will be vomiting and, you know, feeling sick from that. So if Mr. Draghi doesn't understand that, or he does, but he needs to leave some kind of legacy, I guess, after himself, because basically when you look at European elites, all of whom are globalist and brainwashed and uneducated, and again, economics is not real education which is useful in the modern world unless you have the ability to run the whole real physical industries and see how they produce real technology. No, not iPhones, and no, not crappy German cars, overpriced and overrated. No, 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 no. We're talking about, yeah, the last remaining jewel in Europe is, of course, well, Airbus. The commercial airliners, some shipbuilding, no doubt about. We cannot deny them that. But other than this, as I already stated, if not for the Ariane rocket, which is French, by the way, well, it's consortium anyway, there is no real real space program in Europe. If you look attentively, they don't know how to do the manned space flight, which is critical. They don't understand how the whole damn new thing with the satellite works. And they follow only the popular, you know, the iPhone type, you know, framework, so to speak, of the judging of the technological and economic reality. You cannot help them. It's over for them, especially for Mr. Draghi, who is, you know, his time to just goddamn retire to whatever the villa you have there and sit there, write memoirs or something. So, and this is what I wanted to tell you today, guys. And yeah, I'm after break. So I had some, you know, home project. So, and as always, those who like what I do, please subscribe to my channel, and you know, those who can afford, please support me on Patreon or buy me a coffee and two. And have the nice rest of the week, and I'll talk to you later, guys. Bye-bye.